The embassy stood tall behind iron gates painted black and gold. The afternoon sun fell softly across the wide courtyard. Flags moved slowly as warm air passed through the space. Everything inside the embassy followed strict order and calm routine. Royal guards stood in perfect lines near the entrance. Their boots were clean and still against the stone ground. Their eyes stayed forward without movement. One of those guards was named Armin. He had served as a royal guard for many years. His face showed discipline shaped by time and duty. He spoke very little and listened very carefully. His uniform looked simple but carried deep meaning. The badge on his chest was small and old. It represented loyalty rather than rank. Inside the embassy that day, a high-level meeting was happening. Foreign officials had arrived from different countries. Among them was a foreign officer named Mark. He was known for confidence and strong authority. In his homeland, his rank commanded instant obedience. People usually moved aside when he entered a room. He expected the same treatment everywhere he went. Mark walked through the courtyard with firm steps. His shoes echoed lightly against the stone floor. He looked around with sharp eyes. He studied the guards as he passed them. Most of them did not move or react. That only increased his sense of control. Then Mark noticed Armin. Something about the guard caught his attention. The uniform looked heavier than the others. The guard stood slightly apart from the rest. His posture was calm but unbreakable. Mark slowed his steps and stopped. The courtyard became quieter. Embassy staff noticed the pause. Other officers sensed tension in the air. Mark turned fully toward Armin. His voice was firm and confident. He ordered Armin to salute him. The words echoed across the courtyard. The sound felt louder than it should have been. No one moved after the order. The air felt thick and still. Royal guards followed different rules. They did not salute foreign officers. They answered only to one authority. Everyone in the courtyard knew this rule. They waited to see what would happen. Armin did not move. His hands remained still at his sides. His eyes stayed forward. His breathing remained slow and steady. Mark expected instant action. When nothing happened, his expression changed. His confidence faded into irritation. He raised his voice and repeated the order. Still Armin did not react. The silence grew heavier. A younger guard nearby shifted slightly. Embassy staff exchanged nervous looks. They knew this moment could grow serious. Mark stepped closer to Armin. His voice became sharper. He asked Armin if he knew who he was. Armin slowly turned his head. He looked directly at the officer. His face showed calm and control. He said that he knew exactly who Mark was. The answer surprised everyone. Royal guards rarely spoke unless required. Mark frowned at the response. He repeated his demand with authority. Armin shook his head slowly. He said that he could not salute. His voice was quiet but firm. The words carried strong weight. The younger guards watched closely. Embassy staff felt growing concern. This was no longer a small misunderstanding. Mark accused Armin of disrespect. His tone carried frustration. He warned that there would be consequences. Armin straightened his shoulders further. He replied with calm strength. He said that respect was not demanded but recognized. The courtyard reacted without sound. The sentence changed the mood instantly. Some guards felt pride. Others felt fear of what might follow. Before anyone could speak, heavy footsteps echoed. The large embassy doors behind Armin began to open. Everyone turned toward the sound. A presence was approaching from inside. No one knew who it was yet. The tension reached its peak. Mark stood rigid with expectation. Armin remained still and calm. The next moment would change everything. The heavy doors continued to open with slow strength. The sound echoed across the courtyard. Everyone stood still and watched. The tension pressed against every breath. From inside the building a senior embassy official stepped out. His name was David. He had calm eyes and careful steps. He had worked in the embassy for many years. He understood rules better than most people present. David looked at Mark first. Then his eyes moved to Armin. He understood the situation immediately. He knew this moment needed control, not force. David spoke in a polite but firm voice. He asked everyone to remain calm. He reminded the courtyard that the embassy followed strict protocol. His words were careful and balanced. Mark listened, but his pride was already hurt. He believed his authority had been challenged. He crossed his arms and stood tall. He waited for David to correct the guard. David did not do that. Instead he turned toward Mark. He explained that royal guards did not salute foreign officers. He explained that Armin had not broken any rule. Mark did not like the explanation. He believed respect should be universal. He replied that discipline required obedience. His voice showed impatience. Armin remained silent during the exchange. He stood still like stone. His focus never broke. He listened without reacting. David noticed Armin closely. He recognized the badge on his chest. His expression changed slightly. He seemed surprised. David asked Armin how long he had served. Armin answered calmly. He said he had served for more than 20 years. He said he had stood at many gates and halls. Mark laughed lightly. He said experience did not change hierarchy. He said rules must bend when power entered the room. David did not respond immediately. He looked thoughtful. Then he asked Mark if he knew what the badge meant. Mark looked at the badge again. He shook his head. He said it looked old and symbolic. He dismissed its importance. David explained that the badge represented a royal oath. He explained that it was given only to a few. He said those who wore it answered directly to the highest authority. The courtyard grew silent again. Some guards felt the weight of the explanation. Others felt the tension rise even more. Mark frowned deeply. He did not like losing control of the moment. He stepped forward again. He said that in his country such refusal would not be allowed. David responded calmly. He said this was not his country. He said mutual respect was required inside the embassy. Mark felt surrounded by silence rather than support. His team stood behind him quietly. They avoided eye contact. They understood the situation better than he did. Armin stood unmoving. His face showed no pride or anger. Only duty filled his expression. David asked Armin one more question. He asked who Armin served. Armin answered without hesitation. He said he served the crown and the people. He said his duty was protection, not display. The words carried weight. The younger guards felt inspired. The embassy staff felt relief. Mark clenched his jaw. He realized his command had failed. He tried to recover his dignity. He said he would report the incident. David nodded politely. He said that was his right. He said the embassy would provide full context. The moment seemed to settle. But then a quiet voice came from behind the doors. An older man stepped forward slowly. His name was Samuel. He was a royal advisor. Few people recognized him immediately. Samuel carried himself with quiet authority. He walked toward the courtyard calmly. His presence changed the atmosphere. Mark looked confused. He asked who the man was. David replied respectfully. He said Samuel advised the crown on matters of security and honor. Mark felt uneasy. He sensed that the situation had grown larger. Samuel looked directly at Armin. He nodded slightly. Armin acknowledged him with respectful stillness. Samuel then looked at Mark. His eyes were calm but firm. He asked Mark why he believed he could command a royal guard. Mark tried to explain his position. His voice lacked the earlier confidence. He spoke of rank and authority. Samuel listened patiently. Then he spoke clearly. He said authority ended where respect was not understood. The words settled deeply. The courtyard felt still once more. Everyone sensed that the balance had shifted. Mark finally lowered his gaze. He realized he had misjudged the moment. He took a step back. Armin remained in position. He did not move or speak. His duty continued quietly. The embassy doors stood open behind them. The meeting inside waited to continue. But nothing felt the same anymore. The incident had planted a quiet message. Not all power demanded a salute. Some power simply stood firm. The courtyard slowly returned to motion after the heavy silence. Guards adjusted their stance without breaking formation. Embassy staff resumed careful movement across the space. Yet the tension did not fully disappear. Mark stood quietly for a moment. His shoulders no longer carried confidence. He felt exposed in a place where his rank meant little. The realization settled deep inside him. Samuel remained near the entrance. His presence held calm authority. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. David gestured gently toward the building. He suggested that the meeting continue inside. The words sounded polite but final. Mark nodded slowly. He followed David toward the entrance. His team moved behind him in silence. No one spoke as they passed Armin. Armin remained at his post. His eyes faced forward. His breathing stayed steady. He showed no reaction to their movement. Inside the embassy, the meeting room filled with quiet voices. Seats were taken around a long polished table. Papers were placed carefully. Water glasses reflected the overhead lights. Mark sat down and folded his hands. He felt the weight of the earlier moment. His thoughts returned again and again to the courtyard. He had never faced refusal like that before. Samuel took a seat at the far end. David sat near him. The others waited for the discussion to begin. Mark cleared his throat. He attempted to speak with authority. But his voice sounded different. It lacked certainty. David began the meeting instead. He spoke about cooperation and understanding. He emphasized respect between nations. His tone was calm and steady. Mark listened carefully this time. He noticed how every word was chosen. He noticed how power was expressed without force. As the discussion continued, Mark felt his pride soften. He began to understand the mistake he had made. He realized that the guard had not disrespected him. The guard had protected something deeper. Meanwhile, outside the courtyard remained under watch. Armin stood in the same place. Time passed without movement. Sunlight shifted slowly across the stone ground. A young guard named Leo stood a short distance away. He admired Armin quietly. He had watched everything earlier. The moment had left a strong impression on him. Leo wanted to ask questions. But he knew better than to interrupt. Royal guards learned through observation. Silence was part of the duty. After some time, Samuel exited the building alone. He walked toward Armin calmly. The younger guards noticed and stood taller. Samuel stopped in front of Armin. For a moment neither spoke. The quiet felt respectful rather than tense. Samuel finally spoke softly. He told Armin that he had done well. He said duty was strongest when tested. Armin nodded slightly. He thanked Samuel with a simple word. No emotion crossed his face. Samuel looked at the guards around them. He reminded them that honor was carried through actions. He said silence could be stronger than words. Leo felt those words deeply. He understood what it meant to serve. Not for praise but for purpose. Samuel returned inside. The courtyard settled again. The guards resumed full stillness. Inside the meeting room, Mark sat quietly. He watched others speak. He listened more than he talked. This was new for him. At one point Mark spoke again. This time his tone was respectful. He acknowledged the importance of tradition. He admitted that he had misunderstood protocol. David noticed the change immediately. He nodded slightly. The meeting atmosphere improved. When the meeting ended, Mark stood. He felt lighter yet humbled. He walked toward the exit with slower steps. As he reached the courtyard, his eyes found Armin again. The guard stood exactly as before, unmoving and calm. Mark stopped a few steps away. The guards nearby sensed another moment forming. Leo held his breath. Mark straightened his posture. He did not raise his voice. He did not issue a command. Instead he spoke plainly. He acknowledged Armin with respect. He thanked him for his service. Armin did not salute. He did not speak. But his posture carried acknowledgement. Mark felt something change inside him. He realized respect did not need symbols. It could exist quietly. He turned and walked toward the gate. His team followed. No one spoke. The iron gates opened. Sunlight spilled across the exit. The convoy waited outside. Mark paused one last time. He looked back at the embassy. He understood that this place had taught him something. Armin remained at his post. The courtyard returned to routine. But the lesson stayed alive in every witness. The guard had not moved. Yet the world around him had shifted. The convoy rolled away from the embassy gates in quiet order. Mark sat in the back seat and watched the building fade behind him. The flags became smaller in the distance. The stone walls disappeared behind trees and traffic. His team remained silent at first. They sensed he was thinking. They had seen his pride take a hit in the courtyard. They also saw something else in him afterward. A senior aide named Nora finally spoke. She asked if he was all right. Her voice was gentle and careful. Mark nodded slowly. He said he was fine. He said the day had simply surprised him. He looked out the window again. Nora asked what the royal guard had meant by those words about respect. Mark did not answer quickly. He searched for the right words. He realized he had never needed to explain respect before. He said that in his world respect was often tied to rank. He said people saluted because a system demanded it. He said he had believed that was the same everywhere. He admitted that he had been wrong. The car continued forward through the city. People walked along sidewalks without noticing the convoy. Life moved on without caring about titles. That simple truth felt important to Mark. Back at the embassy, the courtyard returned to normal rhythm. Guards stood at their posts as if nothing had happened. Staff crossed the courtyard with documents and phones. The building remained calm and formal. Armin continued his duty with steady stillness. He did not speak about the incident. He did not seek praise. He simply stood. Leo watched him from a distance. The younger guard could not stop thinking about it. He replayed the moment in his mind. He wondered how Armin stayed calm under pressure. When the shift changed later that evening, the guards moved in clean formation. Armin walked toward the inner corridor after being relieved. Leo followed behind with respectful distance. He wanted to ask something important. In the corridor, Leo finally spoke. He asked Armin how he stayed calm when Mark ordered him. His voice was quiet and respectful. Armin looked at Leo calmly. He did not answer right away. He seemed to consider the question carefully. He told Leo that calm came from knowing the purpose. He said duty was not about pride. He said duty was about protecting what must be protected. He said the moment in the courtyard was not personal. Leo listened closely. He asked if Armin had ever felt afraid. He asked if Armin worried about consequences. Armin replied simply. He said fear existed in every human heart. He said training did not remove fear. He said training taught where fear should stand. Leo held those words quietly. He felt them settle in his mind. He realized he had always thought courage meant feeling nothing. Now he understood courage could mean standing steady anyway. Armin walked a little farther down the corridor. He stopped near a small framed photo hanging on the wall. It showed old guards from many years ago. Some faces were young and proud. Some faces looked tired but strong. Armin told Leo that the badge he wore was given after a long test. He said it was not a reward for strength alone. He said it was given for loyalty and restraint. He said the badge reminded him to stay humble. Leo asked why humility mattered for a guard. Armin answered calmly. He said power without humility became noise. He said real strength did not shout. Leo nodded slowly. He thanked Armin for the lesson. He promised to remember it. That night Mark returned to his hotel. He stood by the window and looked at city lights. His phone buzzed with messages from his office. Some asked for a report. Some demanded details. Mark typed a short response. He said the meeting went well. He said cooperation remained strong. He did not mention the courtyard incident in the way they might expect. Instead he opened a blank note. He wrote down a thought. He wrote that respect was recognized, not demanded. He stared at the sentence for a long time. The next morning Mark returned to the embassy for a final signature meeting. The sun was softer and the air felt cooler. He walked through the courtyard again. His steps were steady, but his mindset was different. Armin was back at the entrance. He stood as calm as the day before. Mark slowed as he approached. His team watched him closely. Mark stopped a respectful distance away. He did not issue orders. He did not expect symbols. He simply bowed his head slightly. The gesture was small but sincere. Some embassy staff noticed and felt surprised. Leo noticed too and felt proud quietly. Armin did not salute. He did not bow. But he offered something rare. He offered a small nod of acknowledgement. Mark felt the meaning of that nod. It was not forced. It was not demanded. It was given freely. After the meeting Mark prepared to leave the country. At the gate he looked back one last time. He saw guards in formation and staff moving through routine. He saw Armin still at his post. Mark understood that the embassy had not just hosted a meeting. It had shown him a different kind of strength. A strength built on restraint and purpose. Armin continued to serve without recognition from crowds. Leo continued to learn with new understanding. And Mark carried the lesson beyond the embassy walls. The world would still have ranks and titles. But Mark knew now that true respect lived deeper than symbols. It lived in actions steady enough to shake a room without raising a hand.